Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and we at the Debe Islamic Association would like to welcome you to Ramadan Reminders. This is our last session on the explanation of chapter 12 of the Holy Quran, the Tafseer of Surah Yusuf. This is part 28, which means we're in the last 10 days of the month of Ramadan, the days of emancipation from the hellfire. As such, we will now recite the dua recommended for these days. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma ajirni minan nar. O Allah, protect me from the fire of hell. As we recap the life of Yusuf alayhi salam, let's look at the major points of his undulating life, where he began as a young age with his father's love and having a good time in his household. But from there, when shaitan influenced his brothers, he was eventually thrown into the well. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through that test, sent Angel Jibreel to remind him that there is going to be a much better future. From there, he was moved to the White House, the house of the Aziz and Zuleika. And even though he was bought as a slave, he was not given any duties and he was exposed to the behaviors of the court. And with the option of eventually being adopted as a son to the household. From there, another test of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala led him with accusations falsely held against him to be thrown into jail, where he dealt with the dreams of the prisoners and had to spend many extra years there, building his iman and sabr. And eventually Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed him through the king's dream to move to the highest executive position in Egypt, the one in which he advised the kings, where he was the chief minister, the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Agriculture. And this is similar to our lives, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us highs and lows, ups and downs, right? Blessings and tests all the time. And inshallah that we will gain a lot from this in how we behave in different situations, no matter how hard it may seem, and what is the best behavior, as exemplified by this Prophet of Allah, Yusuf alayhi salam. As we have completed the Tafseer of the Surah, we can see its symmetrical linguistic miracles. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started speaking to Muhammad about this being the best of stories, and for men who have questions and of understanding, and at the end he confirmed this, reminding the Prophet that he was not the only one who went through this. Other prophets did that before him, and many of those who heard the message still did not follow. And then in the second section about the dream, the actual story of Yusuf alayhi salam began. And just as he got the dream in ayahs 4 onwards, the dream was only completed in the second to last or penultimate stage of the surah. And just as the brothers' plot and their separation by being influenced by shaitan was the third section, then the third to last section was where the brothers were now reunited, all of them together. This symmetry follows with the Aziz and Zuleika adopting him, and their situation with Zuleika developing and the woman's seduction. And these two were solved as the woman and Zuleika admitted their errors. And you can see a reflection in Yusuf's imprisonment in the 6th section, and his freedom. Even though he refused to come out of jail, he was granted it. And of course, the pivot of all this was the king's dream. The 7 years of good and the 7 years of drought or famine. So hopefully, inshallah, that we can recognize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has many hidden miracles within his surahs. As we recap this surah, let's look at the geographic location where this story occurred, where Yaqub alayhi salam and his family lived in Canaan, or in a small village called Nablush, just north of Jerusalem. And the journey that was made first with Yusuf alayhi salam through the caravan as a slave, and then with 10 of the brothers in the first case, then with Benjamin as well, 11 brothers in the second case, and the third case with 9 of the brothers, and then finally with the entire family from Jerusalem across to Misra or Egypt, which was an arduous journey coming across the desert. Let's now recap the connection of Surah Yusuf with the number 3. This surah is in juz 12, so 1 add 2 is equal to 3. This surah is number 12 in Al-Quran, so 1 and 2 is equal to 3. This surah has 111 verses. 1 plus 1 plus 1 is equal to 3. The muqatta'at or mystic letters are alif, lam, ra, 3 mystic letters. And the Anbiya mentioned Yaqub alayhi salam, Ishaq alayhi salam, and Ibrahim alayhi salam, the 3 prophets. And the first dream that Yusuf alayhi salam got as a young boy contained 3 celestial bodies, the sun, the moon, and the stars. And he was kept in 3 different enclosures throughout this surah. First, he was kept in the well, then he was locked in the room by Zulaika, and then put into the prison by the Aziz. And in the prison, there were 3 prisoners that were involved in the conversations: Yusuf alayhi salam, the wine presser or butler, and the baker. And finally, in our last section, we completed the 3 dreams that took place in the surah. The first was with Yusuf alayhi salam as a young boy. The second was of the 2 prisoners when he met them in the jail. And the third was the dream of the king. On 3 occasions were the sons of Yaqub kept back in Egypt. On the first occasion was when Yusuf alayhi salam, as a little boy, was kept as a slave by the Aziz and Zulaika. And then on the second occasion was when the sequoia, the measuring cup of the king, was found in the possessions of Benjamin, so he had to stay back. And then Reuben volunteered to stay back as well. And there were 3 occasions dealing with shirts throughout this story. In the first case was the situation with the well, where the brothers brought back the shirt with the false blood on it. And then the case with Zulaika and the shirt being torn from the back in the room. And on the last occasion was when the shirt was put over the father Yaqub's eyes in order for his sight to be restored by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And on the 3 occasions that the brothers visited, on the first occasion 10 brothers visited, all older brothers of Yusuf. And on the next occasion they brought Benjamin along, so there were 11 brothers that visited. And then Benjamin and Reuben stayed back, so on the 3rd occasion that they came, there were 9 brothers that visited Yusuf alayhi salam. As we come to the end of our series, the end of part 28, Alhamdulillah, that all praise and thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing us to make this effort. And whatever good that came out of this series came from Almighty Allah, and whatever mistakes there were came from myself. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to keep us along the straight path, give us Iman, make us among those that He is pleased with in this world, and place us among the people that He is pleased with in the hereafter. We now end with the dua. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Rabbana taqabbal minna innaka antas samiul alim. O Lord, accept this service from us, for indeed you are all hearing, all knowing. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.